Millions of underprivileged children go to sleep every night without a place to call their own and without something most of us take for granted, pajamas. But one woman is trying to change that, one child at a time. Joining us today is Genevieve Piturro, founder and executive director of the Pajama Program, and volunteer Crystal Kale. They're here to tell us more about this program that really was tugging at the heartstrings, if you will, because when I heard how you started this and what really sparked this for you, it was about this little girl in a shelter. Could you tell me a little bit more about that, Genevieve?
Sure. I had no plan to start a nonprofit. I just wanted to volunteer, to do something, you know, with my time once a week. And I was just working, single woman, you know, didn't really have much in terms of children at my feet at all. And I thought, you know, I'm missing children in my life. So I said to my husband, you know, I think I want to read to kids at night in a shelter. So I started doing that in Manhattan. And I would go and bring books to the kids and read to them for an hour at night. And I didn't know anything about them. And I really didn't know much about the shelter. And one night before I left, I turned to watch where the staff were bringing the children to go to sleep. And I was so horrified. It was just a room with couches and futons, you know, clean and safe, but they were all together. You know, they didn't have anything to change into. There wasn't a mom or dad in sight, just staff people who were loving, but not the same as a home. And I said, can I bring some pajamas next week to the staff? You know, I just thought least I could do is maybe bring some pajamas.
Well, so what was it about the pajamas that really kind of struck in your mind? Is that we were talking earlier about, you know, kids and their pajamas and the significance of it. For adults, it might not be such a big deal, but for kids, there's something special.
Yeah, they're soft and cozy, and I think I had memories flooding back of my mom reading to us and putting on our pajamas, and it just changes you into a comforting feeling, and you feel safe, you know, and you're tucked into bed. And these kids didn't have any of that, no sense of that comfort. So when I brought pajamas the next week, most of the kids took them and started changing, and one little girl stood by me, and she wouldn't take them. She was about 7 or 8. And I kept saying, honey, wouldn't you like these pajamas tonight? And finally, she just said to me in a very low tone, what are they? And I stopped, and I just couldn't believe what I heard. She had never had pajamas. Her story about the last months of her life were horrible and sad.
She was just sleeping in her clothes.
In her clothes. I asked her, and she said, my pants. And that's all she had. And I just was so upset and didn't stop talking about it for weeks and weeks, and brought pajamas everywhere, you know, I went to read in the shelters. And it was a real life-changing moment to realize this.
Well, you know, a lot of people go to shelters and they are moved by what they see, but most of them don't go out and start an organization, but you did that. And how hard was it for you to get this thing up and running?
Right. Well, you know, as I said, I still didn't plan to do this as a career or a life change.
Well, how long did it take you from that moment to get this?
It took several months, because word spread, and newspapers and magazines got hold of the story, and little stories were appearing. But what was happening was people were sending me, strangers, boxes and letters and cash donations to my home in the Bronx. And my little apartment was flooded with boxes that my husband and I were tripping over. And I didn't have a chance, really. I felt immediately responsible to the children, to the people who thought, this woman can get these pajamas to the kids, let's send her a box. So if I had stopped to think about it, I would have frightened myself out of it.
Talked yourself out of it.
Talked myself out of it, absolutely. I just sort of jumped in, and one day at a time, decided maybe I need a lawyer to figure this out with me. Maybe I need an accountant to make sure, you know, everything is legit. And nice people along the way helped me, and, you know, I just never looked back. It's been 10 years and just didn't look back.
10 years, and you have volunteers to help you like Crystal.
Like Crystal.
What was it that got you involved?
Well, last year, about that time, I was looking for a different direction for my life, because I just come out of finance. So I was looking online for different programs through NYC websites, and I found the Pajama Program. And since I love reading, I love the written word, I love reading, and reading with children, like, just fit. So I started going into Pajama Program readings and working with the kids and reading to them and coloring, and I just felt that sense of worth come into my life again, that I was adding value. Because before I was in finance and it wasn't really rewarding, but with the children and the readings and the Pajama Program, I met her, and shortly after I started, and I saw her heart and where she was coming from, and I was like, yeah, this is a good organization to volunteer with and to be a part of. So.
Yeah, and your enthusiasm, I think, is contagious. I see it in your eyes light up when you talk, especially about that little girl and how this all started. But this is more than just pajamas as well. I mean, we're talking books, too.
Yes. You know, when the children are removed from home, as Crystal sees so often, they're removed from school, too. And then once the reading practice stops for the little ones and it's catch-up, it's very difficult to get them back on track. And it's not only the literacy for the reading practice, it's bedtime reading, the nightmares that I'm always afraid these children have because they don't know who's going to be with them tomorrow, where they're going to be. So maybe the nightmares will stop if they're looking at a pretty picture book and reading the words and thinking about ways they can dream again, and maybe they could be an astronaut when they grow up because they're reading about an astronaut or a fireman or a policeman. So it's the comfort, the literacy, and the whole bedtime package that really lays a foundation for the next morning.
Yeah, it really does. I know with my daughter, I have a 10-year-old and a 2-year-old, and my 10-year-old's always talking about her dreams the night before.
Yeah.
So you're right. I think with kids especially, those dreams are important, and that safety net of the pajamas and the books that you mentioned. This is something that is really caught on. It's spread. You talked about that original news blitz, if you will, that initially got the word out. Right. But you have chapters in what, 44 states? Yeah,
we have over 62 chapters right now, and it's wonderful. They're all volunteers. They have their own group of volunteers in their city or community, and some of them champion states. And they are responsible for finding where the children are, and we vet those places where we give. And they're responsible for the fundraising of the pajamas and the books with drives and events and things like that. So they marry the two in their local community, and people love to know if they live in a certain community, the books and pajamas stay there to the kids in need. So we do that in New York, and we do that in chapters across the country.
And it's not just for young kids, Crystal?
No, but I focus more with the younger children. That's where my niche is, and that's where I enjoy most. But it's not just for the young kids. I think, like she was saying, the bedtime and the rituals with the reading are important for any child, but especially with the younger kids, starting them on that path, just so they have a sense of, you know, going to bed and the special time that you get when going to bed and entering those pajamas. I think it's really important. I know my most fond memories with my mother is when I was going to bed and she would read a story to me, and I'd get in my PJs. I had PJs back then. And the whole process and the feeling of being safe in bed and dreaming of like the stories that you read with the little children is so vital, and that's where I mainly focus when I go volunteers with the little children.
It is the Pajama Program. Thank you very much for your time, and
thank you.
Good luck. The holiday season, I'm sure, is important for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on Here and Now, we're going to meet some independent